Hey, what's going on, y'all? So earlier yesterday, or actually sometime yesterday, I can't remember exactly what time, I actually got a YouTube notification about a video that grown little boy had done, right? So that video was about Don Russell in a motion that he filed with the court. Now, to me, it seemed like a lot of people really didn't understand what that motion was all about. And to me, it seemed like people didn't understand what Don Russell was actually trying to do. So I decided to make a follow up video on the subject matter, right? So first off, I want to answer some of the questions that some of the people asked or said about this motion that Don Russell filed. One person basically said Don Russell is desperate. And I'm going to respond, right? And I'm just going to say he may be desperate, but this letter or this motion is actually a letter, right? And this letter is not necessarily an indication of his desperateness, if that makes any sense. And what I mean when I say that is that this is the type of stuff that Don Russell does. If you go back and you look at some of the things that he's done for R. Kelly, you'll see the same type of verbiage in letters and things of that nature. And you'll see that he's using the same type of verbiage and he's using the same type of wording. So this is what he does, and I'm going to tell you what this is in a second. And then another question that basically popped up was that what was the question? There was one good question that popped up. Oh, I think grown little boy thought that the person who wrote this letter for Don was the same person that wrote the fraudulent R. Kelly letter, and I don't think so. And it may not be apparent to him, but it's kind of apparent to me. Like, I've done lots of videos on the fraudulent motion for R. Kelly. Go and check those out. One of the things that actually stood out about the fraudulent letter for R. Kelly is that even though the letter was fraudulent, the attack, if you will, right? The legal argument, maybe that's a better word. The legal argument was pretty solid. It's pretty solid. And the reason I say it was pretty solid, you would have to look at what's going on with the Breonna Taylor case and how they are trying to get, or how they've gotten the records for the grand jury proceeding, which is kind of unprecedented. And then how they proceeded after that, right? And then you have the the prosecutor in Kentucky trying to suppress the grand juror from speaking, right? I forget his official title. I want to say he's the attorney general, but he's a state prosecutor. He's like the head state prosecutor for Kentucky, and he's trying to keep that juror from speaking. So that fraudulent R. Kelly motion was along those lines. They made some very good points. I don't know if any of the stuff was true, but from a legal standpoint, just by reading it, it was pretty solid. It was pretty solid in some of the things that they said. And then there was another question or another comment about this letter from Don Russell. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but there were a couple of good ones. One was that he was desperate. And then, grown little boy was like, it's the same person who wrote the R. Kelly letter. These are totally two different people. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Without further ado, let's get into what this is. Now, the clue is in the very first sentence, right? He goes, would your accountant prepare a file federal tax forms 1096, 1099, OID? And then it says original issue discount. Now, to most of us, this is just going to look crazy. It's going to look crazy because he used all these technical terms, and it's going to be hard for most of us to understand what's going on. But it just so happens that I think I was up on the internet one night, and then I started looking into some of the things that he was actually saying. Like, I actually did this way before the letter, And a OID is called an original issue discount. That's what that means, original issue discount. And this is actually a thing. This is actually a thing. And just give me a second here. I'm going to go to the IRS website. 1 second. So I'm at the IRS website, and they have a form that you can download, and it's called 1099 OID original issue discount. Now, I'm going to stop right here, and I'm just going to make it known. And you can even get instructions, and you can get the form, you can download it, right? But I'm going to stop right here, and I'm just going to make it known that I'm about to enter a realm which I know nothing about, right? And typically I say that about everything I post, but at least with the legal stuff, I've been reading about it, and with the legal stuff, I know how to find case law. With the legal stuff, I mean, you can tell with the things that I've posted, I've done a fair amount of research, and then that research is cumulative because, once you look up one thing, and then it's going to apply to something else you look up, and then you learn something from that, and then there's just kind of this build up over time. But with this, I'm going to tell you, I know absolutely nothing about this stuff other than the fact that I know that there's a community out there. So let me tell you what this actually is. This comes from, oh, and I remember, I actually explained to someone on that on Grown Little Boy's channel that this is from the free man movement, and I believe it has stemmed from this, right? So I think back in 2008, there was this talk about accepting for value, things of that nature. And I don't want to offend anybody in this community, anybody who believes in this stuff. And if you guys are watching this video, definitely leave your questions and comments below, because I want you guys to chime in to explain what is going on with this motion. But around 2008, of course, there was the economic collapse, and people were trying to figure out how to survive. And I think from that, came the free man movement. And from that came something known as accepting for value. Apparently, what I understand, and definitely if you know this stuff like the back of your hand, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't really know it. But what I understand is that everyone has a straw man, right? And that part I kind of believe, because when you look at your license, you can see that everything is in all caps. And then I think I later looked up something in Black Law's dictionary that talks about capita Domitia Maximus or something like that. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. Maybe I'll post a video on this stuff later. But it basically talked about, how your rights, it talks about how you have a legal status and you have a natural status, right? And the legal status, of course, has certain rights, and the natural status has unlimited rights. So to me, it seems like everyone has a straw man. And when you're doing business with the government, and when you're doing business outside of the government, most of the times we're doing business with our straw mans. Now, that makes perfect sense to me. That part I kind of get. And I think there's no way to really survive in this world without using that straw man. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason I say that, of course, you can survive if you want to go and live in the mountains somewhere and you don't want to, trade in commerce. But if you want to do any type of trading, this is how the world is trading. The world is trading through corporations. You need a bank account, and then if you want to have a bank account, I don't know of any way that you cannot get a bank account without some type of government ID, right? Either it be a passport, or I don't even think you can get an account without a passport. Maybe you can. A passport, a social security number, a tax ID number. This is the way the world works, so there's no way around that. Now, because you have that straw man, I think there's also something else that comes into play called Uniform Commercial Code, UCC. And of course, I live in Illinois, and in Illinois, they have a website where you can do a search for UCC and federal tax liens. So we kind of know some of this stuff exists. Again, I don't know much about this stuff. You guys, if you know, educate us. Leave your comments below. And lo and behold, you can do a UCC search. And you can search by the debtor's name, right? You can search, you can perform a UCC search by the debtor's name or the debtor's business, so on and so forth, right? So essentially what you're looking for on this site is that you're able to see if there are any UCC liens against a particular entity. So we know this stuff is real. We just don't know, well, I just don't know. You guys may know, but I don't know how this stuff actually works. I don't know the ins and outs of this stuff. Again, maybe I'll study this stuff and I will probably make videos about it. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Um, but I'm leaning towards not making videos of it because my interest in it isn't that great, and there's already lots of videos out there about it. So what you should do, if you really want to get more information on this, you should search for secure party creditor. There's going to be lots of videos out there which is going to talk about the secure party creditor. And from my understanding, what it's all about, and again, if you know this stuff well, definitely comment below and explain it to us. But from my understanding, what it's all about is that you have this straw man, and the secure party creditor is taking possession of that straw man. And because you have possession of the straw man, you're able to be reimbursed for some debts with the IRS. So I believe the idea is that when you get a loan from the bank, and I'm making this up, I'm totally making this up, and I'm not sure if this is actually how it works. Again, if you know this stuff, go ahead and comment below. But as I can remember someone saying that when you go to the bank, you get a loan, that bank actually, and you pay that loan, that bank actually keeps that note, and then that bank can send it into the IRS, and then they get paid again. And it has something to do with the fractional reserve system or something like that. So there's a lot of mystery and a lot of confusion, and obviously I'm one of the people that's confused, but I don't know that this stuff is, I don't know how deep the confusion goes. I know it goes deep for me, but I don't, in terms of people actually becoming a secured party creditor, I know absolutely nothing about that. All I know is what I find floating on the internet, and most of the times when you see someone who knows it, you have to pay for the class, or you have to pay to become a secure party creditor, because they've researched it, they put a lot of work into it, and they're going to show you how to do it. So you have to pay for those programs. For me, I don't necessarily have an interest in it, so I've never paid for anything like that, and I've never really researched it, so this video may be doing the industry, if you will, a disservice, because I don't know that much about it. So you guys, if you want to know more about secure party creditor, definitely go out, do your research, and then come back and comment on this video and let me know what you think. But just getting back to Don's letter, that's what this is. He's trying to be reimbursed. Part of it is that he's trying to be reimbursed probably for his bond, right? He goes, would your accountant prepare and file federal tax form 1096, 1099, original issue discount? We just solved that form to cover the eligible issue products in this matter. The products in question constitute the eligible issue described as follows. These issues relate to case number 20 MJ00239. And then he mentions the federal statute, which is basically stalking. And he mentions another statute. And then he goes, the United States District Court, Eastern District of New York, Courtroom of Common Pleas, United States of America versus Don Russells. So he's trying to get reimbursed probably for the bond that he's put down in this case. And then, yeah, so he goes the appearance bond in the amount of $150,000, the penal bonds with OMB number 90000045, standard forms 24, 25, 25A, 273, 274, 275, bid performance payment reassurance agreement for Miller Act, performance payment in favor of the United States bond, estimate amount shown on a 1099 OID form. So this stuff is way over my head, but I recognize it to be secured party creditor uh, type of play here. That's how I recognize this. I recognize this as a secured party creditor move. And if you guys disagree, definitely leave your questions and comments below. Now, I don't know if there's any legitimacy to any of this stuff. I don't know if it actually works. I don't know what's going to happen. But one thing I can tell you is that I don't see how this is going to get him out of the charges, right? Because they number one, they have witnesses. Number two, they have evidence. They have his cell phone records. And I just don't see how this is going to help him. Let's say by chance he does get reimbursed from the IRS. So the idea, I think, is it's what he's trying to do is that he's paid the bond with Federal Reserve notes. But to me, it seems like there's a process that you can go to where you can go to the IRS, you can submit that 1099 OID, original issue discount, and then you can somehow get reimbursed for the money that you paid out, right? And I think he also mentions that it was prepaid, right? All the products issued, yeah. So all those products in issued are prepaid, and I am in need of information of your business plan to process prepayments in order to facilitate the tax report of the federal withholding to the IRS as taxable income to me, right? So again, all this stuff is over my head. Now, when it comes down to original issue discount, there's going to be two different universes, right? And I'm just going to say there's two parallel universes. There's going to be one reality where a tax accountant would take a original issue discount form and then he would process that. And what I believe that means in that reality is that you have this income that's coming in, but that income, you haven't received all of it, so you discount the income, right? So let me give you an example. So let's say I owe you $100,000, and I agree to pay you monthly for about, let's say $500 a month, for X amount of years or whatever, right? So your total income is going to be the $100,000. That's your principal, right? Plus the interest that I'm agreeing to pay on that. So you're going to be due a certain amount of interest on the money that you've lent out to me. So you have to represent that on your tax form. Now, of course, I'm not a tax accountant, so I don't know how to basically explain this, but that's what I believe is one of the uses for the original issue discount. And if I'm wrong, if your tax accountant, basically explain that to us in the comment section. So that's one reality. And then, of course, we have this other reality where people are saying you can fill this form out, you can send it into the IRS, and then the IRS is going to reimburse you. But I think you have to be a secured party creditor first in order to do that. So I'm speculating on both of those realities. I don't know if either of those are correct. That's just my own opinion after some brief research. Definitely leave your questions and comments below and correct me if I'm off on any of this stuff. So, that's what this is. He is trying to get reimbursed from the bond money, right? And he goes, you did not provide me with a check or money order in order to pay for the products of your withholding, which constitute a dishonor in and of itself. Any dishonor denial in this matter on your part admits this settlement to be tax recovery issue, the IRS will want to know where the funds are that are being withheld, instructions needed on how to proceed in order to make settlement. So that's what this is. The tax in question is the original issue discount. The filing of the 1099 OID is to enable the tax charge to be, he's breaking it down. So the tax in question is the original issue discount. The filing of the 1099 OID is to enable the tax charge to be returned to the source for settlement and closing for escrow in exchange, registered. How do I go to the next page here? It looks like I'm stuck. Okay, so my computer's stuck now. I don't know why. What the heck? Okay. So it looks like now you have these blank pages in here, and I can't really understand why we have blank pages, because it looks like, oh, actually, it looks like maybe the page just was somehow fed incorrectly, because this is page 2. So those 2 pages are actually, the first page and the blank page is actually page 1. So then it goes treasury account, and then he gives in a treasury account number, and then he gives a tax ID number, employee identification number. This is a number you get when you have a business. And TD account number, I don't think I should have redacted that, but oh well. After filing, returning to my possession all the corresponding property that belongs to me. If you do not intend to comply with this request, then provide me with your tax identification number. Please note that I wish to be indemnified against, basically he wished to be reimbursed against all claims or losses under the Sovereign USA Private Registration Indemnity Bond Number, Illinois, which was previously lodged with the U.S. So to me, it looks like he's trying to be reimbursed. This is a business transaction, and he's trying to claim this on his taxes. That's the gist of it. You're right. So, and again, with the secured party creditor, it appears that they have special remedies because they have taken possession of this, straw man, right? We all know the straw man exists at this point, but it looks like they have special privileges because they are secured party creditors. So it wouldn't be like you and I, when we go and file our taxes, we're just going to, get, a certain amount of money back. They are somehow going to get reimbursed for all the money that they've spent because they have possession of their straw man, right? And again, this is my speculation. I have no idea if this is correct. I'm just kind of putting this stuff together as I go. So don't take my word for it. You need to go to someone who knows how the secured party creditor works. I do not. I'm just talking out loud and I'm thinking out loud, right? And then he goes, your refusal makes you a participant in an international contract small claim, and your name becomes eligible to appear in a tax report as recipient of the payer who is identified in the eligible issue, bill, bond, etc. You have knowledge, access to the value and other information to report, file the federal tax form, and you are now holding a tax liability until you make settlement by return to the source, which is what the filing of the 1099 OID, original issue discount, does. And that source is eligible for tax refund. You would become the holder in due course of the eligible issues for the value stated herein, that value being a federal tax liability. If I do not hear from you in 5 working days, the receipt of this letter, the enclosed 1099 OID tax form, will be deemed correct for filing with the IRS. So that's what this section of the letter is about. To me, it looks like Don Russell could be a secured party creditor, and he's basically paid the bond, and he, and I'm speculating, I don't know that he actually paid the bond. So it looks like he's paid a bond, and then he is trying to get information from the court system, right? So that he can take that information and file it with the government, with the treasury, to basically be reimbursed. And to me, from my research, I believe that's how that's supposed to work. I think that's how it's supposed to work. Again, if you're a secured party creditor, leave your questions and comments below. Let us know if any of this stuff let us know how this stuff works, right? So that's the first part of the actual letter. Then there's another part which I don't think is going to get him any success, and he's asking the court for help. That's what a letter rogatory for relief means. And basically, I, Don Russell, executor of Donald Russell and Tom Russell, SSTQ Trust, to notice the court of my letter rogatory to the Eastern District of New York and demand my name be cleared of this alleged criminal case for the reasons set follow. And then he goes, I, Donald Russell and Tom Russell, have learned that this alleged court that has scheduled a case calls claim against me is not really a court as per the Constitution of the United States, but rather a tribunal operated as a private corporation. Now, I'm not going to read all this. I'm just really going to stop right here, and then I'll skim over some of the rest of this stuff. You know what? It doesn't matter what you believe. They have a prison, they have four walls, and they have no problem with picking you up and locking you up. And the one thing that I don't see in this section of the letter is any solid case law, any solid arguments using statutes. I don't see where he's using statutes or anything to make an argument. I don't see any solid defenses. So when the court receives this, they are going to basically dismiss it. They're probably going to force a public defender on him if he doesn't have enough money. And even if he does have money, I would imagine there's probably going to be a way where they're going to force a public defender on it anyway, because this stuff doesn't mean anything to the courts. And it's not going to, in my opinion, it's not going to help him, right? I've seen it. I've seen people go to court and try to use this stuff, and the court has a term for this. I forget what they call it, but they're basically going to say you're making arguments that has no relevance to the court, right? And then they're going to try to advise him to get a lawyer, and then if he doesn't get a lawyer, then they'll probably just put a judgment in on him. But because this is a criminal case, I think they will force a lawyer on him. So let's read a little bit more. I have learned that the fraud that goes on behind the scenes of these alleged criminal cases, which are really civil claims in equity, and the steps taken to seizure of these civil claims without giving full disclosure to the people, I am hereby letting the court know that I am opting out of any contract and do not allow any documents regarding me or my SSTQ trust to be scrutinized and sold to any investors, etc. So let me say this. So there are ways to contest jurisdiction, right? So the court has, you've been summoned to court. Someone has a claim against you, either civil or criminal. And in this case, it's criminal. And if you want to say that you contest jurisdiction, these laws don't apply to me, there's a way to do that. There's a way to do that, and this is not it. This is not it. You have to follow the court rules and procedures, right? And there is a section, I think, there's a couple of videos where we talked about jurisdiction. Actually, if you go back and look at the R. Kelly fraudulent motion, it lists some of the ways to actually contest jurisdiction of the court. And the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, that is. The Federal Rules Civil Procedure basically lists several ways of which a party can contest jurisdiction of court. And this is not it. This is not how you contest jurisdiction, because you need case law. You need case law, or you need some type of solid arguments to be made in order to contest jurisdiction, right? Just saying that the courtroom is a fraud and it's really a civil claim posing as a criminal case, it's not going to help, right? And then it goes on. The fraudulent process is as follows. All cases are civil, though often fraudulently called criminal. The courts are operating under trust law, assuming the defendant is a descendant. After finding the alleged defendant guilty, the court clerks sells the judgments to the federal courts. Since the defendant is a descendant, the court officials considers themselves a beneficiary. So, yeah, this is not going to help Don. It is really not going to help him. And some people are saying, oh, he's desperate. No, this is not desperation. This is someone who basically believes that, this is how the court system work. Oh, damn. This is someone who believes this is how the court system work. And they think that this is going to get them some type of relief. What they don't understand, or what they probably understand, but it hasn't clicked yet, is that, again, they have a prison, they have walls, they have guards, they have people that are willing to beat you down and throw you in the cell, and nothing's going to get you out of that but a solid legal argument. And this is not a solid legal argument. And even if this stuff is true, you still have to, find a way to beat the claims against you. They have witnesses. They have victims. They have people who were a victim of the bomb threat. And because they have that, they have jurisdiction over you, right? Anytime there's a victim who's going to show up to testify, those people are going to come to court and they're going to say, yes, we had to evacuate the courtroom because a bomb threat was made. And then the government is going to come and they're going to say that these are the phone records. And you can see that the bomb threat was made at this time. And it came from, according to these records, that call was made at the exact same time. They're gonna come in with evidence and they're going to come in with witnesses. So anytime the court has a witness against you and they have a claim against you, they have jurisdiction. They have subject matter jurisdiction, right? There's no way around that. He could probably argue that they don't have personal jurisdiction, but they already got him and they got him in court, so they have personal jurisdiction. And he could probably actually claim personal jurisdiction because he lives in a different state. But the problem is that this is a federal charge, right? So it's going to be hard to get out of that. I think his only way out is to make solid legal arguments, whether by himself or by an attorney who's experienced in doing this stuff and who does it every day, all day, every day. And even then, even if he goes out and get the best lawyer, Johnny Cochran, he still may not get off, right? Of course, Johnny Cochran has been dead for, God knows how long. But he needs somebody on that level to just kind of help him with all this. And then he goes, when a judge asks if a person understands, he or she is asking if the person is liable for the bond. I am not responsible for the bond of these cases, but I will appoint the judge as trustee, fiduciary, and a beneficiary of all proceeds. Now, this I'm going to disagree with. When a judge asks you if you understand what's going on, it's a constitutional requirement. I forget what part of the Constitution, but basically you have to have what is it? Oh, why am I drawing a blank? But there's a constitutional requirement whereby you have to understand the nature and the cause of all claims against you. That's what that is. Whenever a judge asks if you understand, that's a hard constitutional requirement, is that you have to be made aware of the nature and the cause of all claims against you. If not, then you can have that any judgment in that case is going to be void. Any judgment in that case is going to be void. So that's the gist of what that is whenever they ask if you understand, right? So you know what? I'm actually going to stop this video right here, right now. I think we've pretty much covered the overall gist of his letter to the court system and to the judge. And yeah, so on one hand, he's trying to get reimbursed for the money that he's paid for bond, or he's trying to get money from the court system, how not directly from the court system, but from the U.S. Treasury, right? He appears to be a secure party creditor. He's trying to get uh, the information from the court system so he can turn it over to the IRS and somehow get reimbursed for it. And then he's also arguing that the claim against him is bogus, and he's saying the court is not really a court. That's not going to fly. It's not going to go anywhere. They have witnesses or victims, alleged victims, right? And they have an investigation report from the prosecutors, right? So Don really, I think he really needs to get a lawyer. He needs to get a lawyer. Obviously, if he's going to continue to do stuff like this, he's not going to be able to represent himself. He needs to get a lawyer, and I'm willing to bet that the court system is going to force a lawyer upon him, even though they don't have the right to do that. But I think they're probably going to declare him unfit, mentally ill, and that's probably how they're going to get around putting a lawyer onto him. That's it for this video. Leave your questions and comments below. Let me know if you know anything about the secure party creditor. Let me know if you know anything about UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. Let me know if you have a solid understanding of these things. Leave your questions and comments below to give us a breakdown of what you think about that section of Don's motion or letter. And again, like, share, and subscribe.